Hi everyone, it's meteorologist Joe Chaffee on this Monday. Thought I'd start out with something a little different today as we're getting closer to the start of hurricane season. And of course, hurricane season has started in the Pacific. And this is a satellite measure of the sea surface temperatures as of May 17th. And what we see in the brown, if you look on the bottom here, you can see what the scale is. The red area is the area where water temperatures are above 30 degrees Celsius or 86 Fahrenheit. 25 in the brown would be anything above 77. That's around the threshold. 78, 79 is around the threshold that usually can support the development of a tropical system, anything from 79 or higher. And usually you need temperatures in the at least into the low 80s, 83, 84 or higher to support something in terms of anything major, which would be highly unusual for this time of year anyway. But in fact, it's highly unlikely. But in the meantime, when we look at the water temperatures, this is the time where we start to see a gradual expansion of the warmer water in the Atlantic. You have to go north of 15 degrees north latitude to find, south of 15 degrees north latitude to find water temperatures that are supportive of tropical systems. And this time of year, this part of the Atlantic is usually very quiet. If you're going to see development this time of year, it's likely to happen for the first part of May from late May into about mid-June. The area of development is usually focused around this area here. And then by the time we get to the end of the month, that kind of expands a little bit and goes to east of the Florida coast and covers just about all of the Gulf of Mexico. And then, of course, as we go through the summer months, that area of expansion gets wider and wider. So if we're going to see anything, it'll probably be somewhere in this area. Also, just a couple of things. You can notice the colder water here that's moving, that's showing up off the coast of South America and then extends up to the equator and on northward. So, one of the things that was at least initially being forecast is the possibility of some kind of El Nino developing. We don't really see any signs of that. Of course, I'm not looking far enough out into the Pacific on this particular view, but at least from the standpoint of a west-based El Nino, really don't see it. Very warm waters off the coast of Central America. You can see it here. We've already seen the generation of one tropical storm in the Pacific. And of course, we had that tropical storm in the Atlantic back in the middle of April. Now notice up in the North Atlantic, the colder waters extend down. There's the Gulf Stream. You can see it right in there. That pushes off the east coast and then goes east-northeast. But you can also see the cold waters from Greenland on down to Newfoundland and on up into the coast of Maine. That blue area is generally water temperatures under 50 degrees, and the gray area is water temperatures generally under 40. So it's pretty cold. The waters are warming up a little bit. Over in our neck of the woods, we're into the 50s now and some 60-degree water and 65-degree water. Not that far away, but still a long ways to go before it gets up to our latitude, probably not for at least another month and a half or so. You start to get toward the end of June and water temperatures start to get up at least into the low and middle 60s up our way. So until that happens, you can see why whenever we get into any kind of marine flow, look where the wind is coming in off water temperatures that are very, very cold. So this, pretty much shows what happens when you get at least any type of onshore flow, be it a high to the north or northeast or a sea breeze. So we're going to look at this from time to time. We'll start to look at different things with regards to the hurricane season and see where it goes. Now, in the meantime, we've got this blocking pattern in the North Atlantic. It's actually beginning to break down somewhat, but you can see its impact at the moment with what's happening. You've got this storm that's sitting east of Newfoundland that's just taking its sweet time moving eastward. And in the east, this is a very broad trough that's formed in the upper atmosphere, and it kind of extends all the way back through the plains and then all the way up into the eastern part of the United States. So this is going to take, given the slowness of how everything is moving in the atmosphere at the moment, this is going to take a few days at least to work its way through. And when we look at the loop, here's our system that's coming through today, and you can already see the generation of another wave that's moving out of the central Gulf Coast, and this is going to be moving up to the northeast. So we've got this system moving through today, getting some heavy rains over parts of southern New Jersey, by the way, and that's going to be moving out to the east. Some of that rain will make it up into southern New England this afternoon. And here's the second wave. Now, the issue with the second wave is going to be how it tracks. So that the northern extent of that rain may not make it that far north of the coast. We'll have to see how models handle this later on today. But just a very interesting pattern. And there's still more energy coming down. You can see it here up into the plains and down up in the northern and central plains and northern Rockies, and that's dropping down. So this is going to keep things busy. Now, none of these systems look to be anything monumental, but they're nuisances when you get these things one after another. So it's going to be hard to generate some real weather improvement going forward. And we'll take a look at the radar, and you can see the first area of rain that is moving through now. Nothing crazy. There's some embedded moderate to heavy rain over parts of South Jersey into Delaware and Maryland during this morning. The first batch of rain went through overnight didn't do too much with that. Here's that second wave that's coming out, and you can see the energy here. The broad trough shows up very well on the radar loop as well, obviously, and these are all going to be weather systems that are going to have to play themselves through as we go through the week. Now, here's the upper air. Here's what's left of the upper high. It kind of reached its peak strength yesterday, and it's beginning to weaken. Now, of course, when that process happens, blocks don't instantly turn on and off. So, whatever chaos that they've created in the atmosphere has to play itself out. Here's a storm off Newfoundland, and here's that broad trough that we're talking about in the east. The real strength of that trough is pretty far to the left. It's sitting in the western lakes, and you can kind of visualize, that all has to play through. We've got a ridge in the west, so there's some warm, dry weather there, some activity well off the west coast. So, we're going to have this sort of very slow moving progression as we go through the week. Here's that trough. So part of it goes to the north, and then a strong part of it drops southward. And you can see how it swings around for the east coast. So this is why the weather looks rather unsettled through most of this week. And we do have this other system that's coming into the west. I'll just roll it back from where we are today with that ridge. And then again, with the slow movement, it does allow a system to come down from Western Canada toward Lake Winnipeg. And that is going to create some questions for the Memorial Day weekend. Now, one of the things we're seeing at the moment is the fact that once this system pulls out of the east on Friday, there is room for some improvement here weather-wise Saturday into Sunday. There are some weak little disturbances in the flow, so we're going to have to be a little careful in terms of what it's going to mean for day-to-day weather. Is it going to mean clouds, or is it going to mean the possibility of some showers? And then this stronger trough behind it begins to swing across to the east. You can see it there. Looks like it might hold off until after Memorial Day is done, but here we are a week before, so I still have a lot of questions as to where this is all going to play out going forward. And while the block initially does break down, it starts to reappear again late in the period. Here we are June 4th. You start to see that blocking high kind of pop up again. You might have maybe if you remember, I mentioned a week or so ago when we came out of that strong monumental block that sometimes when you see something that extreme, you wind up seeing that pattern try to repeat itself over time in a weaker state. And we do have this blocking high that is trying to form there. And if that's the case, we have to wonder whether that's going to mean once again the possibility that we could see, that if the block sets up, it's going to want to favor troughing in the east over time. So that will create some unsettled weather. Now, right now, it doesn't look all that exciting. Let's use that for a word, I guess. Or, I'm not too crazy. I'm not seeing anything that says, okay, we're going to go into a really long, prolonged wet pattern as we go into the first part of June. So, you know what? Let's deal with that when we get there, because after all, as you know, once we get past day 7 or 8, it becomes more of a trip toward fantasy land. So let's look at the day-to-day surface map, and let's see what that has to say for itself. Okay, so here's how this all plays out on the surface, and you can see these waves of low pressure. Here's the one for tomorrow, and it passes off the Maryland coast, so the rain kind of gets into the coastal plain, but not much further inland than the immediate coast, and then that wave moves out, and here comes the next one for Thursday. Now, this one could be one that produces an inch or more of rain. We've got a fairly decent southeast flow coming in from off the ocean, low pressure out to the west. So there's some good moisture inflow here, and that low translates toward the coast and then lifts up just inland of the coast. So I think this has room to produce a soaking rain for a while on Thursday. Still have some leftover showers around on Friday if you want, if this model is correct. And then as we go to the weekend, clearing is going to be tough. You're going to have, here's the next low in the southern plains, and there's there's a leftover front there along the east coast. And moving on into Sunday and Monday, some of that moisture gets in here. Now, how much of that how much of that is real? How much of that is, in terms of volume? I mean, it doesn't look like an out soaking rain, but I think we have to leave the possibility that there's going to be some showers to deal with for the Memorial Day weekend. Maybe Saturday, I think, was my initial prediction of being the best of the 3 weekend days, with weather conditions beginning to deteriorate Sunday and for Monday. One thing we can say for sure, it's not going to be that heat wave that we had last week. There's no sign of that repeating anytime soon. All right, I'm seen to be being called now by my dog Cody, who wants to go out for a walk. He's getting all worked up and excited here, so let's call it a day. Oh no, he's giving me a break. All right, you know what? Since he's giving me a break, why don't we look at temperatures as far as the weather is concerned going into this period. So let's just back all the way up, and we'll move to today. So, with this wind off the ocean, you can see how cool it is in the east, and still kind of cold out in the Rockies, on the hot side in the southwest and in the west, getting temperatures up into the 90s and hundreds with that ridge in the west in California. There's no that's not a surprise. But you can see in the east, you get these little pushes of milder air depending on the tracks of the low. This time of year, remember, if the sun comes out at all, temperatures are going to want to jump fairly quickly. So we can't discount the possibility when that happens. Also, on Thursday, if we've got a low going to the west and the onshore flow kind of relaxes, it might allow some places to climb up towards 70. But on the whole, when you look at the weather temperature profile through the Memorial Day weekend, it really doesn't look all that warm relative to the heat wave we just had, looking at 70s, and maybe depending on clouds and wind, it may wind up being lower than that. And meanwhile, we've got a little bit of hot weather going on in the west and still kind of chilly up in the Rockies. So we'll leave it at that, folks. I will show you that hurricane temperature map one more time. Download my app and subscribe to my forecast for New York City, Long Island, New Jersey, Hudson Valley, and Eastern Pennsylvania. Just 99 cents a month, and the app is free. You can find the links on my website, meteorologist Joe Chaffee. I'll stick a link up on the video here. Also, Angry Ben on nycweathernow.com. And you can subscribe to my YouTube channel so you can catch all my YouTube videos. They're absolutely free. Put up one a day at least. And I know I promised I'd do some kind of instructional video on the tropical storm hurricane season coming up. I didn't get a chance to do it yesterday, but I will try to get to it one day this week. All right, everybody, have a great Monday, and we'll talk to you on Tuesday.